Today I'm going to be going over the 4 indicators that I personally use that I've customized to my trading system, and you can learn my trading system of course, but essentially I've been able to end every single month green by using these indicators and as well as price action and of course understanding my system. But nonetheless, let's get straight into them. I've been working on these indicators, if you don't know, for like the past year or so. So I've been putting in a lot of work and a lot of code goes behind these indicators. For those that are interested, you can get them down below on my website. It's in the all-in-one indicator package, and of course, you get monthly or basic continuous updates when I do add updates to indicators for completely free, of course. But let's just go over what the indicators do and basically how I use them. So the reason why I made these indicators, for those that don't know, is because the community ones majority just suck, and I'm just not a fan of them. I either dislike the visuals or the functionality was just lacking. Like for example, my E2PY indicator, there's no other indicator out there that marks PYs like how I define them. Hence why basically I had to make my own. That's basically started the trend of all this. But essentially, here's a kill zone indicator. How I use this is I have a basic market highs and lows. Mainly is what I use it for sessions, to use that as liquidity. So you guys know session highs and lows are main points of liquidity, and those are basic points that I'm literally looking for to trade reversals off of with the right context. I have it so I have an indicator option so you guys can trade passively using the alert conditions. So you can literally set alerts at new session, A session, and low session highs and lows, and it'll send you guys an alert through the mobile and trading view basically. If you configure it like that, so you can trade completely basically passive, just waiting for the alert to hit, and then you can look at that chart. Otherwise, you can just go on with your day, maybe at your job. It works perfectly for those that do have a daytime job or whatever job you got, or don't have much time. But getting straightforward to it, these are the default settings here. I have it defaulted to, of course, the tooltips show all the default kill zone session timings. You can change your time zone here to whatever time zone you use or prefer. I have it so you can choose a border width. So it goes up to 5 from 0, because I think anything over 5 just looks ridiculous. I don't think people would use that. So some visuals, I have it set to 0 by default though, because I noticed when price is playing out, if it's within your session live, the border width kind of gets in the way. So I set it at default 0 now. Obviously border style determines the style. You have it dotted, dashed, solid. And then background transparency would be the main visual thing here. You can set it to, I have a default 90. And then show session names, very straightforward. Show session names, recent session highs and lows. I incorporated this into 2 parts because it helps with memory overload and preventing that, and performance, so your trading view doesn't lag. Otherwise, it might start lagging if you have a lot of other indicators on here. So this shows recent, basically past 3 session highs and lows. And then this shows the session ranges. Of course, you need session lows, high and low to be enabled to show this, so it can calculate it properly. And then show past session highs and lows basically shows all the past session highs and lows. If you did want to show them all, I majority teach my students to use the most recent 3 session highs and lows because they're most relevant to the new price range. Like we don't care really about the New York, for example, low from all the way back here, which is so far away from price. This is very unlikely, if not impossible, at the moment at least, for us to hit, obviously right before your session even opens. So very rare for that to hit. Typically focus on the past 3 session highs and lows for liquidity sweeps. So I have this main for those that basically really want to look back at trades or back test. So that's what this is mostly important for. Session range, again, you can use that for back testing market conditions or just looking at the current range and comparing it relatively to the past sessions. And if it's a very small range, you can maybe just avoid trading. There's a lot of ways you can use that towards your advantage if you want. And then session name position, very straightforward. Just positions the name of the session. It will vary based on asset. So I include this so you can improve the visuals of it in case the asset shows it kind of whack. But defaults typically work solid for ES at least. These are toggles to show in your sessions. A session here, less session here. This is show the toggles of each session. Again, this is for memory, or if you don't trade a specific session or don't use the session highs and lows or specific sessions, you could just turn them off and just focus on one session. So like for example, maybe you only trade let's say you only trade New York session and the previous session would be London session. Maybe you just have London session shown. Maybe you want to show past session highs and lows, London session, boom. It saves you a lot of memory. It keeps your trading view basically lag free and shows you what's important. But let me just reset these settings real quick to default. But yeah, that's the session indicator. This next one is the hefty one. This is what started it all because I was unable to find a free community trading indicator that can mark out PYs and zones like how I teach how to identify them in the course, because how I identify them is a lot more accurate than how most people identify zones, because most people identify them off FEGs, but I personally do not use FEGs to mark my zones. So I had to customize, and basically this started the entire PineScript journey of learning PineScript and such, so I can basically have this mark out the actual zones I'm using. This is set by default. You can read the description here to run from 0000, which is just 24/7. Again, this is a memory performance optimization feature. Or if you only trade, let's say every day, New York session, you would just set this from New York session time range. Improves the performance and it removes unnecessary PYs being drawn on other time frames or other times. Time zone, very straightforward. Session border, of course, this sets the border of the session. So if you're trading 24/7, of course, it's going to set the border here. You have different border options between dotted, solid, things like that. So something you definitely want to keep in mind. You can pick from, right? You can see change to solid, and we have dashed, and then border width. Of course, you can alternate between. But for me, I do not really use this for any of this. You can if you want, but I typically have it off, so none of that really matters to me too much. Premium discount range. This is very interesting because this is a mechanical, 100% mechanical way of defining your ranges. So for people that struggle with marking structure, this basically marks out your structure for you because it marks out all the ranges for you. So it's based off some very short mathematical calculations and just marks out the ranges mechanically for you. So this, I can definitely see being very useful for people that are not good at reading structure yet, right? Like for example, you'd be taking trades within 50% here, which hit perfectly for this 10R trade that I did a recap on. Just by using this indicator, for example, you could just identify that 50% range. You can see 50% here got tapped after and mitigated, and it went down. We went to almost 50% here, not quite. But you can see how these ranges worked very well mechanically. Like for example, find this one below 50%. Okay, what it does here, real quick, show you guys. 50% line is just 50% of the premium discount. If you just hide it, it will just show the high and low of the range. So like for this range from this high to this low, you take the middle as the premium discount. So this is the high, this low structure now. What does price come back to? Boom. Within this high and low. Low in this case right here. And this high and low here. What does price come back to? 50%. And you can see we actually later came back to this premium and mitigated this PY and went down. So again, very useful tool to help you mechanically identify structure. In this case, it basically marks it perfectly here. You can see really how good this is. Like marks out perfectly structured here. You could take this liquidity sweep. You could take this liquidity sweep. You could take this liquidity sweep, get a good nice trade. Take this liquidity sweep, get a very nice trade. Take this, take a reversal. Mitigate this PY right here. Take this, you probably take a loss here. So you can, there's a lot of ways you can use this. So I decided to include this just as like additional feature for those that find it very interesting or just need some help marking out something and just spending less time on the charts and just finding a way to mechanically do that. This is for you. But let me hide this real quick. Let's move on to the main part. Here, this is pretty straightforward. Show bullish and show bearish zones. Hopefully that makes sense, right? It just shows the bearish or bullish PYs. So you can, if you only want bullish PYs, boom, marks out the bullish PYs. If you only want bearish, boom. Might take some time to update because this, again, like I said, is a hefty indicator. It has like 500 lines or 300 to 500 lines of code. and a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, especially after a new update that pushed, which adds several time frame zones. But if you want both, you show both. Now, for these other options, very straightforward. I have tooltips for those that don't understand, but 50% calculation just filters them out based on premium discount, essentially. So if you're only looking for POIs and premium discount, it filters out them so you can basically trade off good and bad POIs. And then show only active zones is very straightforward. If they're already mitigated, they will disappear. And it'll only show unmitigated POIs that have not been mitigated yet. And of course, you can see the indicator loading over here. You see it circling, it just means it's loading. So you can see it there, boom. You guys already saw the default settings for that. Bearish color, it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna show all right now so you guys can see everything. But bearish color, if you want it to be red, boom, it changes everything to red. If you want the bullish to be green, there you go. You can choose your colors of the zones. Now, outline alternative zones. This is a new feature I added with the recent update, along with several time frame support. Essentially, this outlines the border of your other time frame zones. So you can see with this indicator, what it does is very powerful. It's able to fractally view price and mark out your other time frame POIs while you're just staying on a 1 minute. So theoretically, you could just trade purely off the 1 minute and have this indicator, or my indicator, basically mark out the other time frame zones while you're still on the 1 minute, so you can see everything from a fractal perspective without having to change time frames ever. So, again, I typically have outline enabled by default, so you can see which ones are current time frame POIs versus other time frames. Of course, other time frames do have the text here, so you can see it, but it helps it visualize a little bit better. The current time frames are by default turned on, and they won't have any text, of course. So it makes it less clutter. Next up, we have show third, fourth, fifth, sixth zones. I'm not going to enable all this right now because it's going to probably lag a lot. But essentially, you get the point. You can pick the time frames that you want to basically show up on your 1 minute chart here, right? You have different time frames to pick from. I just have it set to a default time frame cycle that I use 5, 15, 30, 1 hour, 4 hour, and 1 minute, which is the current time frame. That's it. But you can see it basically marks out other time frame POIs. You have the 15 minute here. Let's see what else here. Should have everything else here. You have the 30 minute here, 30 minute here. You can see it definitely gets quite hectic, and you typically run out of boxes pretty fast just by default in TradingView. I tried to increase the box limit, but TradingView will not let you at that point because too many calculations, too many drawings. It's gonna lag TradingView too much and take up too many resources. But yeah, you guys basically get the point. It marks out the zones perfectly. I know time frames, so very cool feature for sure that I added recently. That itself added like 100 plus lines of code, which is kind of crazy. But it's very straightforward logic that I can just add and copy and paste. Now, bullish time frame text color, very straightforward. You can see the bullish time frame text color changing here. You can see the text color for bearish is changing. So there's some visual features. Zone text alignment. If you want the time frame text to be on the left side of the zone, personally, you have it on default on right because I don't know why you would want it to be on the left. But it's up to you. It takes some time to load, of course. And then you of course have center if you want. Like you see left, it's hard to see. But I had it for you in case people for some reason like that. And the center is solid, right? You can see it more clear. And of course, text size, you can just make this whatever text size you want. Very straightforward stuff. I'm gonna let it load real quick before I get to the next step. All right, so it's been finally officially loaded here. And you can also see the text is crazy, right? It's massive. And yeah, it's basically what it looks like, y'all. Very cool indicator. Does a lot of stuff, range, session, everything. Basically, this is like an all-in-one almost right here. This big boy. Next up is just a watermark indicator. I have two versions. I have not published the second version yet because I'm still working on some things to adjust it. But the main version, you have vertical text mode. If you, for some reason, want your text to be vertical, you can show daily percent change. It has a little cool option if you want to see how much daily has increased or decreased on the day. and it shows symbol day time frame. You customize this to your liking in terms of format. I didn't like the other indicators when they're watermarked. They had like the day, month, year format. I don't like that. I like to have it the month, date, and year. So that's what I have it set at. Or did I say the other way? Did I say the opposite? I forgot the way I said it. But anyway, you can see it's updating. Yeah, this is the right way. So yeah. And then size symbol, of course, you change the symbol size of each aspect. I just have these on default. Subtitle, this is a subtitle. I thought this would be a cool reminder to everyone. Of course, you can type in here, do whatever you want, you know. And then very straightforward. There's nothing much I should really explain here. You know, change the colors, subtitles, whatever you want. But yeah, if you change it all blue, you know, look like that, something cool like that. But yeah, very straightforward for this indicator, honestly. And then, of course, the main thing, positioning it. You can position the text wherever you want. If you just want it in the bottom right, you can. I think what looks best is top center or bottom right. I can't do top right because I have my daily bias indicator I'm going to get to in a bit for that. But yeah, that's basically the watermark indicator. And then the current one I'm working on is a few more settings and options, but I'm trying to make it so you can basically position it wherever you want. You can have it separate positions. Essentially, is the main difference. And of course, the vertical text is kind of cool on the right side, if you can see that or not. All right, last but not least, we've gone through basically 3 indicators, 2 mainly functional indicators. One is more just a straight visual watermark. We have the daily bias. This is a very straightforward indicator as well. It just helps me improve my win rate if I'm taking trades aligned with the daily bias. I've done back testing on this, and if I take trades with my daily bias aligned, again, if you want to learn how know basically the best way to backtest this, go on FX Replay. You can download an Excel file with the past trades you're taking from your backtest, or you can journal every trade if you want from TradingView, and just have a column basically where you can filter out yes or no. You look at the trades, and you basically, if your daily bias for that day was bullish, you just delete all the bearish trades for that day. And that's basically how I was able to determine this. But basically, daily bias increases my trade win rate by about 15 to 20%. It typically ranges depending on, of course, fundamentals like the asset. The asset is overall bullish. Of course, bullish daily bias is going to help it a lot more than bearish. But again, remember, price doesn't go in a straight line. You're going to have bearish days even in a bullish market. And indices are typically bullish, but we still will have days, obviously, or even intraday action, price action like this, gone down 0.5%. But this indicator, you change the bullish color if you want, bearish color if you want. This updates in the HUD above, in the dashboard, top right. You have neutral. When we have a neutral day, previous day low and high, you can change the color of this if you want. So if you go back, previous day high and lows right here. As you can see, red is pretty cool, stands out to your eyes. But you can see previous day high and low marked out for you. And of course, I have it as indicators in case you want that. So you get an indicator when previous day high is swept, previous day low is swept. You get the indicator alert, and daily for 50%, which just marks out the 50% price of the current daily candle. And what can I use this daily 50% for? Well, you can use it for a lot of things, but mainly you can use it for a premium discount of the daily range, or you can use it as support and resistance basically. So once you reach daily 50%, you can expect a potential reversal with the right context. And you can see it worked perfectly here. You would get a very nice trade. You could have probably TP'd at the flip here, or the origin you would have TP'd. If you have a higher TP for a high time frame, it would be previous day high here, because we're bullish on the daily. And yeah, it would be a great way to basically find potential reversal areas in the market. And about it, this 50% works very well from what I've seen. Show true day open, I have it disabled by default because I don't use it as much. But basically it just marks out the daily price of the price of the daily candle open. That's it. And typically how you use this is if you're expecting price on the daily to expand bullish, you want to be buying below the true day open. If you're expecting bearish, you want to be buying or selling above. It's kind of like premium discount in a sense, right? But based off the opening price. And then obviously you can toggle previous day high and low on and off visually. HUD scale. You can basically make it small, normal, large, depending on your fit. Normal should work for every single monitor aspect. I have the other options in case you wanted something that looks better to fit your display resolution. There's no way to really automate it except for normal. So usually you would set this at normal. And of course, I have tooltips to explain like everything for those that are new to trading that need some basic explanation. I got you. But that's basically it. I don't think I have anything much else for the indicators to talk about. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing here. There was one thing I was thinking about. I'm trying to remember what it was. I was thinking about potentially adding a new function to daily bias where you can, you know how the watermark I have where you can set the position of the daily bias. But then I was thinking, low key, I think it's weird to have the daily bias anywhere else. Like you're also not gonna have the top left. That's where your text is. I think everything else, everywhere else is just whack, and you know it's just unnecessary. So you know we'll keep the daily bias in top right by default. So don't mess me with that anyway. But basically that's it, man. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. Again, this is what it looks like with all the indicators that I use on a daily. Obviously, POI is not gonna show all those POIs. Hold up. Use my default settings real quick right here. But yeah, that's basically what my indicator will look like on a daily basis. And I use this every single day, and I don't use any other indicator outside of these. And I'm able to be consistently profitable each and every single week, each and every single month. So if you guys do enjoy this video, and I shall see y'all in the next one.